Thank you for joining us for today's Wellness Wednesday webinar. My name is Jillian Schultz. I'm the program director for the Parkinson Association of the Carolinas, and I'm very excited for today's presentation. Knowing that there's so many things to manage during the holiday season, especially when you're dealing with a chronic health condition, but still being able to enjoy the holidays with your friends and family is so important. So, we are excited to have Dr. Lavera here today to present to us. She is an assistant professor of neurology in the Movement Disorders Division at the Medical University of South Carolina, also known as MUSC. And she is going to present our program today. So, welcome, Dr. Lavera.
Right. Thank you for the introduction, Jillian. I'm happy to be here, and I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. Do you all see it?
Yes,
Yep.
McKeevers can.
All right. Wonderful. So, I'm going to be talking today about peace, presence, and Parkinson's, making the most of the holidays. All right, so holiday season is something that we all greatly enjoy and we're excited about, but there are some challenges that could come with it. One of the things is particularly in Parkinson's is when we're considering that it is a bit of a change in routine, which includes how and when we're eating and what kind of exercises we're doing. We might not be keeping up with our physical therapy over the holidays and things like that. Increase activities and demands on our time. There's, the event at the school or the other event, and just more and more opportunities to engage come up, and sometimes it's hard to do all of them. Insecurity about managing symptoms when we're around others. So sometimes it also just makes us a little bit more anxious about how we're going to feel or how we're going to do if we develop that tremor or if we start having more problems with walking or if we're freezing when we're around other people. And then also considering that we might be seeing friends or loved ones that we haven't seen in a while. So maybe it's been since the last holiday season or it's been 6 months and symptoms might have changed or progressed, or you might actually be dealing with a new diagnosis of Parkinson's. And how do you tell your family what you have and what limitations you might have now that weren't there before? Now, it's important to talk about what some of the hangups with the holidays might be because it is, when we think about holiday season, really it is about a time to get together and engage with loved ones, friends, neighbors, families, just a time to get together. And why is the togetherness? Why is that social connection important? Well, actually, time and more recently, just multiple studies have been showing that social connection and engagement are associated with improved well-being and cognitive function. So your brain and body and mood function better in community. So being socially engaged, it's actually another thing that we recommend just from a cognitive perspective is a cognitive exercise. Yeah, sure, do your Sudoku, but make sure that you're hanging out with friends. So it is very important to stay connected. Some ways to stay connected are just engaging in social groups. It could be a support group or group type exercise activities, engaging in volunteer or paid work, and then cultural or other leisure activities that you can do in a group. And the last example here would be visiting family, friends, and neighbors, which, guess what? The holidays is a great opportunity to do that. So today I'm hoping to leave you with a few tips to help navigate the holidays regarding these kind of six domains. And just a little bit of information on each as to why it's important and how we can try to optimize it during the holiday season. Now, these areas are medications, meals, and exercise, which has a lot to do with your routine. So when you take the medicine, when you normally eat, and what kind of exercises you're doing. And then traveling, if you decide to go away or if you're staying home but hosting, family, friends, and the elusive and ever so important time, how we manage our time. Now, when we're talking about medications throughout the entire year, but especially in the holidays, it's very important to stay on your regular medication schedule. So, if you don't have the normal reminders you have set up at home, make sure that if you are away, you are setting up timers or alarms to help you take it on time. Now, because being on holiday, you might be eating a little differently, the meals might be a little more protein heavy. You want to avoid taking your medication with those larger meals because the medication might not be absorbed the same way. So, if you're eating your turkey along with your pill, that dose might not kick in. So, you might just want to be mindful of that the protein can interact so that you can just dose appropriately to make sure that you're getting the most benefit from each individual dose. You also want to make sure you have enough medicine. I can't tell you how many times, it's Christmas Eve or the day before Thanksgiving when the offices are closed and the nurses aren't there and some pharmacies are closed, where that is not the best time to realize you ran out of medication. So maybe now, even this week, go ahead and look at all your pill bottles, see if you have enough refills or if you need to call in for another refill to your doctor's office. That way you can get it in a timely fashion. If you are traveling, make sure that you take all the medication that you normally take with you. And if you're flying, it's in your carry-on and it's not in a checked bag, just in case that bag doesn't make it to you to the next airport. You've got your pills with you on your person.
That.
And you also want to pack extra in case of delays. So if for whatever reason you have to stay an extra week or an extra few days, you have more medication with you just in case. Now, you also want to create an updated list along with the doses and times. So an
Mhm.
adequate and appropriate list of all the medications that you take and what times and what doses is very important. At any time of year, but especially in the holidays, just having that reminder with you. And lastly, for medications, if you're planning a late night, so if you want to watch that ball drop on New Year's Eve, you can talk to your doctor about potentially addressing your medication schedule if there's a way to help fill in that gap. Because if you're going to be up past your bedtime, would you be someone that would benefit from an additional dose of levodopa a few hours before? But make sure that you're checking with your doctor before you make any medication changes. Now, meals, that's another thing that can change over the holidays. Now, we know that a healthy diet, so a diet that's varied, avoiding processed foods, and with fiber, with vegetables and fruits, is good for you. It can improve your energy levels, reduce fatigue, and help ward off or control constipation. So, what happens over the holidays, and honestly, this happens to all of us, that we overindulge and have all the things, and that really throws off your system, can really affect your energy. So, while it's tempting to indulge in all of it, try to stay with that healthy base. Make sure that you're still eating your fiber, your fruits, your vegetables, and yes, you can still have the cake, but just not all the cake. And I know all of you understand what I mean, but just you can indulge a little bit, but just make sure that you keep that foundation of the fiber and the fruit and vegetable that you've been doing year round. And this will help ward off, issues with constipation or some of that fatigue, and will just help keep your body functioning better so that you can actually enjoy your time there. When it comes to constipation, make sure that you also have with you the medication you take usually for constipation, just in case that does come up when you're dealing with when you're on the holiday. And you want to avoid alcohol. So it's okay to just maybe have the one drink or the half of drink, depending on your specific situation, but just don't overindulge in alcohol. It will affect your balance, dehydration, blood pressure. There's just so many problems that can come out of it that it's better to avoid it or just take it in very limited amounts. Now, the other thing that can happen with Parkinson's and meals is it can affect your blood pressure. So we know that blood pressure can be affected in Parkinson's, particularly that your blood pressure can be a little bit lower. Now, when you're eating these bigger meals or carbohydrate heavy meals or just a lot of cakes and breads and delicious things, it can also affect your blood pressure. And what we call this postprandial hypotension, but basically it's that if you have a big meal, more of your blood gets diverted to your gut to help with the digestion, and this can sometimes lead to some dizziness or that sluggish feeling after a meal that can be even more pronounced in Parkinson's. So you want to help avoid that by just try not to have that huge meal. Try to keep it to multiple smaller meals and again just being mindful with what you're eating. Now, if you also want to make sure that you're staying well hydrated, drinking 6 to 8 cups of water every day, and maybe making one of those an electrolyte type drink, something like a liquid IV or a Gatorade, just to make sure that you are staying well hydrated. You also want to avoid sitting for long periods of time. And if you have been seated for a while, you may want to just be pumping your arms and legs for 30 seconds to a minute before you stand up. So this will help get the blood kind of recirculating and make sure that it's not just pulled by your feet so that you're less likely to feel dizzy or lightheaded when you stand up from the table. And again, the alcohol can also have a big impact on your blood pressure, so you want to avoid drinking alcohol, particularly if you tend to have that low blood pressure and those dizziness spells. Now, exercise, we know year round, but also during the holidays, can improve fatigue, constipation, and can actually help manage stress. Um, I what I hear every January, time and time again, is I was doing great until December and I stopped working out. I stopped going to my exercise group or whatever it is. And now my balance is worse or I'm bumping into the walls. So there is even people who are exercising well, taking a month break from your exercises can impact your symptoms and can contribute to worsening of symptoms. So you want to try to keep up with exercise throughout the holiday season because it is going to help you feel better and be more present for all of it. So you want to try to maintain physical activity, even if it's not the same exercise classes or clubs or going to the gym, just anything that you do will be helpful. It doesn't have to be perfect. 10 to 15 minutes will be better than nothing. So if you're traveling and you don't have the gym or you don't have the supplies, even going for a brisk walk around the neighborhood can be helpful. Resistance bands are very easy to pack and they're lightweight. That's something else that you can use. And if you're currently part of an exercise group or a physical therapy program, you can ask one of the trainers to give you some exercises that you can be trying at home so that you can keep up with that physical activity. Now, if you're at home and you have guests over, you could actually invite one of them for the walk with you. And it might actually give you a good chance to have that one-on-one time and maybe escape the craziness for a few minutes and kind of get a chance to help manage some of that stress from all the changes, from all the things that you have going on in the holidays. And if you have young kids, just a little tip here that a lot of them will love that impromptu dance party, so you will be their favorite adult if you decide to go dance with them. So that's something else that you can try to do. Traveling. So some will decide to go travel, not all. But if you are planning to leave home for the holidays, you want to plan to rest the day before and after you travel. So give yourself enough time to recover and just get the energy, build up the energy that you need. If you are flying, you just make sure you're calling in advance to request a wheelchair or any assistance you might need, or if there are accessible rooms at a hotel, things like that. If you're traveling with a cane or walker, you might want to make sure that they're labeled so that you don't lose them. Don't be afraid to ask for help as you're doing all these things. It makes your life a little easier. And again, you want to try to stay with your home routine as much as possible. So, same medications, meal times, exercise, and trying to keep a sleep schedule if you can. Now, traveling isn't for everyone. So either you don't have to travel for the holidays, or traveling in some cases can become too hard. So there might be changes or things that happened in the past year that's going to make it harder for you to fly or harder for you to drive a long distance to see someone. But don't let that be the reason you don't. So try to stay connected. Like I was saying before, that human connection is so important. So even if it's a video call or a FaceTime that you can set up with your friends or loved ones, that can help. And then maybe even discussing, instead of you going someplace, them coming over. If you are hosting, don't expect yourself to be, making the 26 dishes all by yourself. Ask for help. Order out if you need to. Just make things a little bit easier for yourself. And then something I've seen some families do is just celebrating on another day. So if that exact date is very hard to all come together, just decide on another day that would work, that you can all still enjoy each other's company. Now, family and friends. If you are planning to see family and friends that you haven't seen for a few months, or they don't really know how you're currently doing because there's been something else that happened since the last time you saw each other, you might want to share an update before you see them. And this will help kind of set up expectations and what your limitations might be. So if you now are using a cane or a walker, it would be good for them to know so that they can accommodate that a little bit. Or even when thinking about activities and fun things that you'll be doing as a family, they can take that into account and make sure that the plan is for something to still be able to include you, and not have you feel pressured to be doing something that you can't. So if you're now with a walker, going up into a football stand might be a little bit more difficult. And again, just that open and honest communication will help them just have a more realistic expectation as well. And when it comes to the children in your family, sometimes just not knowing what it is that you have, and they might be hearing it from the adults. Okay, so if you see the shaking, don't say anything. And that can be a little scary for them. But if you're open to it, maybe just having just a age appropriate conversation with them might actually lessen their fear or anxiety about you having Parkinson's disease, and will just make the experience all the more enjoyable. And kids are usually really open and can adapt to that, and do well with it. And you can also try to find ways to get that child involved. So you can ask them to go, help get you a glass of water, or they can exercise with you, or you can play games with them, and you can involve them in that way. And like I said before, that dance party again will get you very far with them, I'm sure. And this is just in general tips for family and friends of a person with Parkinson's. When we're talking to our loved ones that have Parkinson's, we want to make sure that we're trying to have those conversations at times when they're well rested and they're at their best time of day. So you don't want to wait until they're really tired or flustered. That's not the best time to have that conversation. You don't want to talk for them or fill in their responses unless they're asking you to do so, because this can make it even harder, because then it's they're noticing that there might be that delay in producing the answer, and it just limits the conversation even more. So just try to be patient, because sometimes you see the words and the answer forming, but you have to give it a few extra seconds so they can actually produce and communicate what they were wanting to say. If you are having a conversation, try to reduce background noise. That'll make it easier for both people to concentrate, but it'll be make it easier for them to express themselves, to you. And then just be aware that your loved one with Parkinson's might have changes to facial expression because of the Parkinson's. So if they look distant or not engaged, that could just be the changes of Parkinson's that have masked some of their emotions a little bit. And the last tip here that I wanted to touch on was with time. So it's very important that you are giving yourself plenty of time to prepare, time to get ready, time to be there. You want to also allow some time for rest. So after you did the activity, plan in some restorative time after that. You want to make sure to not overschedule. So it's better to do a few quality activities than to do a lot of them and be overwhelmed and drained and stressed. So a few key activities is better than too many. And then if you are going to be going with a group to a party or a larger gathering, maybe having a conversation beforehand, having a second vehicle there so that if you do need to drive back a little bit early, you can. So giving yourself those options. If you think and plan ahead of schedule, it'll just make everything a little bit easier and allow you to enjoy that time better. All right, and my kind of take-home message for today. Um, First, we want to try to stay as close as possible to our regular routine, including meal times, dosing of our medications, and exercises. I'm not asking you to be very, very rigid. You can still indulge, go to bed a little later, all these things, but you want to try to keep that routine as a good foundation throughout the holiday season so you feel better and you can be more present. You want to allow yourself to rest and try not to overschedule activities. You want to really be honest with others and yourself about what activities you can do and what really is out not in your comfort zone or not in your comfort level with your current limitations. You want to ask for help and you want to accept the help as well. Give them a chance to be able to take care of you too. And don't forget what you're celebrating. So remember what you're celebrating, and remember that if you don't feel well, you really can't be there. So it's important to take these steps so that you feel at your best and you're able to enjoy it. And I'm just wishing all of you a happy holiday season filled with joy, peace, and I'm hoping after this talk a little less stress. And this is a picture of our group at MUSC. I thank you for your attention. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see all of you.
Thank you so much. That was great. So, does anybody have any questions? Feel free to unmute or put your questions in the chat. And for the McKeevers, I did have to put you on mute. There was some background noise. So if you are asking something, we just can't hear you.
I noticed you talked about protein and I'm taking your medication with protein. Is there a particular diet that you should follow that would help with Parkinson's more so than another one?
Yeah, so for Parkinson's and brain health in general, the widespread recommendation is closest to the Mediterranean diet. So you want to try to, which is basically um, white meat, so chicken, fish, nuts, vegetables, fruits, and then avoiding red meats and things that are processed. So that's just in general the kinds of foods that are a little bit better in part for Parkinson's or for brain health. What I meant with the protein is sometimes the medication like the carbidopa, levodopa, or the Rytary or those formulations if you take the pill with a heavy protein meal, so let's say steak and eggs with the pill, in some people the stomach absorbs the protein and will ignore the pill. So, if, especially over the holidays, if your diet is a little different, you might be more likely to notice that a dose doesn't really kick in as well as it will normally. And it could just be because you're taking it too close to that bigger meal. So, spreading it, taking it 45 minutes before or an hour after a meal would be better just to make it more effective. Obviously, if you can't and that's the only time you have to take it, that's fine too. But I'm just saying that that can affect how effective the dose is. So sometimes it's better to just spread it apart.
Thank
Does that
you.
answer your question, Miss Chambers?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I just put in the chat also, we did a Wellness Wednesday in October about nutrition and Parkinson's disease. So we talked some about diet in that session as well. So I posted the link for that video.
All right, Mr. McKeever, I think can you guys unmute your microphone? So you're still muted. I can't hear you if you're talking to me.
There should be something that popped up because I just clicked the ask to unmute. And so something should have popped up that lets you unmute.
How'd we do?
There you go.
We hear
Great.
you now.
Good. The question is, and much that we've been reading over the last year, I don't think I know the definition of what off time is versus on time, how I would log that. And I'm not sure I understand. I mean, I understand from a movement standpoint, but what does it really mean? Because it seems to be used in a bigger context.
So off and on time, it's variable. So everyone is going to have different symptoms for the off and on, and not everyone is really going to notice the off and on. So it's want to think of it this way. So an off would be, before you ever took any medication and you had the tremor and the stiffness or however your symptoms manifested, those would be symptoms off of medication, so untreated. Now, once we start medication, especially early in the disease course, you might not really notice an on or an off just because it's still early in the course and that little bit of medicine is really it's the before and after. So before medicine versus after medicine. So you're not necessarily going to be experiencing the off and on. Sometimes later in disease, as the symptoms progress, there are patients who will experience those motor fluctuations where they'll take the medicine 30 minutes in, will feel on, the movement's better, the tremor is gone, but then toward the end of the dose, the tremor comes back, the movements are slower. So the on and off felt personally, if they happen, tend to happen later in disease course. So if you're not really noticing too much of an off and on, honestly, it's a good thing.
It's me. Um, yeah, I think I understand. I just appreciate what you said about the protein. That was one of our questions also. So I do have, it's better to take your medications 45 minutes before we plan to eat. That should take care of the situation. Am I correct?
Correct. In an ideal world, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Get my alarm set. Um,
Any other questions from you guys?
no, those were the two. If we missed one, we'll see you.
Okay.
I'm going to see you this week, but I do have a weird thing that happens, and I don't even know what to call it. I have these issues where I will be talking or just sitting there, maybe engaged with someone, maybe not. All of a sudden, I can't talk, and my throat just pours saliva, and I start to cough, and I don't know if it's with the medication. It seems to come more frequently as we've added medication.
So it's hard to judge, and I don't think we need to be discussing your specific symptoms because this
Well,
is a bigger crowd, so I don't want to
yeah, I understand that, but I
yeah.
do want to talk to you about that. I just wondered if other people have that. Is it normal to have nausea with medication?
So the nausea with medication can occur, and I'm sure all of you at some point have heard that that's why we usually don't say so much of the dosing away from meals, especially originally, because it just makes it harder to remember to take the
Okay.
pills if it's on an empty stomach, and it's harder to tolerate.
All
So
right.
if you do think that the salivation is just because of a nausea, taking the pill with crackers or applesauce, so something that's not protein. So not steak and eggs, but yes, crackers, that might help make it tolerated a little bit better so you have a little something in your stomach. So
Yeah.
that's where eating with your pills is complicated because sometimes if you're really nauseated, you do need a little
Yeah.
something to make it better.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there other questions?
Well, I can tell you exercise sure does help. That's not a question. That's
Yep,
just an affirmation of what Dr. Lavera has said.
absolutely. And I put in the chat a link to our exercise list on our website. There we have a list of online exercise classes so that especially if you are away from home and your routine is different. There are some classes that are listed that are live, so those are at specific times. And then there are other classes that are on demand, so you can select, it's time you want to do your exercise program, you can select, okay, I want to do this right now. And it allows you to be able to do those classes from wherever you are.
Yes. Well, we do one and I love it.
Good. That's great. And I can say, so I've been with the Parkinson Association of the Carolinas since April, and I was so amazed when the first exercise class I visited, as the program director, just seeing how even in that hour-long class, the difference that the exercise makes. So definitely keeping up with that on a regular basis is important, is really good for you. And I think it's hard for all of us to keep those kinds of routines if we regularly exercise during holiday time. So prioritizing that is important. Um, is
Did you say you've posted some that are online people can access?
Yes, I put the links in the chat, and then I'll also send a follow-up email with those links,
Thank
as
you.
well as a recording of this video. I also put a couple of other videos that we have posted on our YouTube channel. One is about nutrition and Parkinson's disease because Carol was asking about
Yeah,
that.
like that.
And then also traveling with Parkinson's disease and, steps that you should take to help make it easier for yourself if you are going
Are you
somewhere.
emailing all those out?
Sorry, Carol?
Are you going to email all those out?
Yes, I will email all of it.
Okay.
Hey, are you speaking about the chat that's in the toolbar down here?
Yes,
Okay, good. Thank
yes.
you.
You're welcome. Does anybody have any other questions? I don't want to cut anybody off. All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Lavera. This was a wonderful presentation today. I really enjoyed it, and I hope everybody who was here did as well. I will send a follow-up out by the end of the week with the video as well as the other links that I mentioned. For PAC, we have our next support group, virtual support group, is on Wednesday, um, December 3rd. It is at a different time. Than our usual meetings. It is 12:15, and it's about sleep disorders and Parkinson's disease.
Mhm.
And then the following week on December 10th, we'll have a webinar about hallucinations and psychosis and Parkinson's
Good.
disease. So that information is all available on our website. And then after that, we'll start back up in January. It's hard to think that we're saying that. And I just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see everybody soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Julian, is
Jillian.
that correct?
Gillian.
Yes.
Jillian.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you
Thank
You're
all for
welcome.
having me. Happy holidays.
Happy
Bye.
you.
holidays.
Bye.